Join me as I dive into what Jesus teaches about building a joyful marriage. And I'm going to try to apply these lessons in my own relationship for a whole week. Marriage is a beautiful thing, but let's be real. It can be tough to maintain that spark, that joy, that connection with our partner. As Christians, we're called to love our spouses like Christ loves the church. But how do we do that in the midst of everyday life, with all its challenges and stresses? Today, we're going to dive into what Jesus teaches about building a joyful marriage and how we can apply those teachings in our own relationships. One of the biggest challenges couples face is simply staying connected. Life gets busy and we start to drift apart. We get caught up in our own little worlds, and before we know it, we're living like roommates instead of partners. Another common challenge is dealing with conflict. No matter how much we love each other, we're human, and we're going to disagree sometimes. But how do we navigate those disagreements in a way that strengthens our relationship rather than tearing it apart? Then there's the challenge of forgiveness. We all make mistakes. We all hurt each other. But how do we forgive and move forward? And finally, there's the challenge of communication. We all know how important it is to communicate effectively. But how do we do that in a way that honors God and strengthens our marriage? In a world that's full of divorce and broken relationships, it's easy to feel like we're just going through the motions, trying to survive rather than thrive. But God didn't create marriage to be a struggle. He created it to be a beautiful picture of His love for us. So, how do we build a joyful marriage that reflects that love and brings glory to God? One of the most powerful teachings of Jesus is to love our neighbors as ourselves. But what does that look like in our marriages? It means putting our partner's needs before our own, serving them with humility and grace. It means looking for ways to bless them, to make them feel loved and appreciated. And it means doing it all without expecting anything in return. Another teaching of Jesus is to forgive 70 times 7. That's a lot of forgiveness, but it's exactly what we need in our marriages. We need to be able to forgive each other quickly, to let go of grudges and resentments, and to move forward in love and grace. And finally, Jesus teaches us to communicate with each other in love and honesty. He shows us that communication is key to any healthy relationship, and that it requires effort and commitment from both partners. I want to share a powerful story with you. A few years ago, a couple I know was on the brink of divorce. They'd been married for over 20 years, but they'd slowly drifted apart, and their relationship was full of anger and resentment. But they decided to make a change. They started attending counseling sessions, and they began to apply Jesus' teachings in their marriage. They learned to communicate effectively, to forgive each other, and to put each other's needs before their own. And you know what? It worked. They started to reconnect, to laugh together, to love each other again. Their marriage was transformed from the inside out, and it's still going strong today. Applying Jesus' teachings in our marriages isn't always easy, but it's worth it. When we put His words into practice, we start to see fruit in our relationships. We start to see joy, peace, and love growing in our marriages, and it's a beautiful thing. So, let's commit to building joyful marriages that reflect God's love for us. Let's commit to applying Jesus' teachings in our relationships and to seeing the transformation that only He can bring. Thanks for joining me today. If you've got a story to share about how Jesus' teachings have impacted your marriage, please leave a comment below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more content on relationships and faith. See you in the next video.